Hello everyone, my name is Abhishek and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, let's explore top 10 Linux commands every software engineer should know. Especially if you're a DevOps engineer, system administrator, or a Linux administrator, there is absolutely no excuse. You should definitely know these commands. So just make sure you watch this video till the end. Cool, let's get started. So the first command, probably the most popular one in terms of troubleshooting, is the top command. Many of you might have used top in the past. What does top do? It helps you monitor system performance in real time. Best example, when someone asks you monitor CPU utilization, memory utilization in real time, or even to check active processes in real time, top is the command that you need to go for. Right? It's just like a monitoring dashboard. What SRE engineers do with applications, top command does the same thing with system performance or your Linux nodes. If you look at this white banner here, you can understand what top command outputs. It outputs the process IDs. So these are the process IDs of the processes that are running on your Linux machine. This second column tells you which user has initiated the process, one particular process, right? And you can see CPU utilization for a particular process, which is active CPU utilization at this point of time. Similarly, you can see the memory utilization. And if you notice carefully, it is updating constantly, right? So every time there is a change in the memory utilization or CPU utilization, every second, in fact, even less than that, it is updated on this dashboard. And you can also see the command that has initiated this process. There is also a cool extension to top. You can just call it as a wrapper. That is htop. Out of the box, htop might not be installed on all the Linux distributions. It's a very simple installation. You can just install it using your package managers if it is not installed on your Linux distribution. The output is almost similar, just like top, because it's just a wrapper on top of top. What it does, it gives you a better readability. So you can see various colors just to enhance your reading ability when it comes to the top output, right? So top or htop, you can go for anyone when it is required you to monitor system performance in real time. For example, you know, maybe your CPU utilization has exceeded 90% and you want to understand which process is utilizing more CPU. So you can just monitor for 5 minutes or you can just monitor for a couple of minutes and you can see through the dashboard which process is the one that is taking more resources. Either you can kill the process or you can take the required action when it comes to the process. Sometimes you might just want to inform your development team or maybe in the management that, okay, this particular application or this particular process is consuming more resources. Let's take an action on it. So this is about top and htop. Now let's look at second command, that is ps. So ps is a command that is used to list running processes, process ID, and also you can visualize the process hierarchy. By just running the process command or ps command, you cannot get all of this information. But there are cool extensions to ps. For example, when you run ps aux, it provides you a very detailed information. Most of this information you can get through top as well, but top is more real time. Whereas PS, you can use it within your shell scripts or you can use it within your script where you want to fetch information about a particular process. Yeah, but otherwise you can get the process ID of a process, you can get the resource utilization, and you can also get the command that has initialized the process. A thing to remember, this is not real time. Top command produces the real-time information. But Abhishek, you explained that PS can also be used, to get a specific process ID. Yeah. For example, if you already know Nginx process is running on this machine, you can just search for pgrep Nginx, and you can get the process IDs associated related to the Nginx. Otherwise, you had to run this command psaux pipe grep Nginx. Probably you'll get the same output, right? When you run this, so you get 2025, 2026, but you can easily fetch that using pgrep Nginx. Similarly, pgrep Java, pgrep Python, whatever is the process or the application that is running on your machine. But my favorite part with PS is this cool extension of PS, that is pstree. Using pstree, for example, if I just do pstree-p, you can see hierarchy of all the processes. I just executed pstree command, which is also a process that I'm running. So if you want to understand how this pstree process is running on this machine, you can look at the complete hierarchy. Now this explains Abhishek or someone has logged into the Linux machine using the SSHD process. Then they use the bash process. Right now I'm using the bash process, and using the bash process, they have executed the pstree command. Imagine how useful this is when you have an unknown process running on your Linux machine. As an administrator, it is not mandatory that you know about all the processes that are running on your machine. So whenever there is a strange process or whenever there is a process that you are not completely aware of, just use the pstree command. For example, pstree, let's say there is a Java process that is running, and let's call it as A2A app. So when you run this pstree A2A app, you will get the complete process hierarchy. Maybe a Java process has triggered it, or maybe a script that is running on your machine has triggered this process. Perfect. So this is about the PS family, which is the second command that you should definitely know. We learned about PS, we learned about pgrep, and we learned about pstree. Cool. Now, the third command, another one when it comes to troubleshooting, that is netstat. It's a very, very simple command. Netstat is used to inspect the network connections, especially if you want to know if a port is available or not. Very simple thing, right? A lot of times, especially if you're using Linux machines, you might have seen this error. Port is already in use. How do you know which ports are already in use and which ports are available for you? Just run netstat-tuln. You will see the ports that are already in use. So for example, it says here, port 8 is already in use. Port 53 is already in use, which is DNS port. It also tells you that these are the ports that have active connection. Now, by getting this information, you can take care of your application. Maybe you can use a different port other than the ports that are already in use here. And also, if you want to understand which process is using this port, going ahead, I'll also share that information. Using netstat command, at this point of time, you can understand which ports are already in use and which ports are available. Now, the fourth command, probably a favorite when it comes to application troubleshooting, that is TCP dump. Let me ask you a question. How many times you have got a question from your client, or how many times your client has complained that, hey, I receive response late from the application, or there is latency when I try to access the application. I can get the response from the application, but the response is delayed. How many times have you heard this? Now, whenever someone tells you that, just use the TCP dump command. What exactly is TCP dump? It will capture and analyze network packets for diagnosing the connectivity issues. Very simple. Your client is trying to connect to your application and there is some connectivity issue. Just use sudo TCP dump. Maybe your client is trying to access port 80, for example. So just say hyphen I ENXO port 80. Right now, there is nothing running on port 80, so there is no information. Now, you might ask me, but Abhishek, what is this ENXO? Very simple. On every Linux instance, typically every instance is connected to a network interface. If you just type ifconfig, you can get the information of the primary network interface. When you are using EC2 instances, the primary network interface is ENXO. On your machines, the most common one is eth0 or eth1. But when it comes to the Linux instances created on AWS, it comes with ENXO interface. Anyways, like if your interface is eth0, just change the command to sudo tcp dump hyphen I eth0 followed by, even port 80 or port 8080, whatever is required. Right now it says no device exists. But Abhishek, I don't have any issues with a particular application, but when I try to connect to the instance itself or all the processes that are running on the instance, they are going through the latency issues. Then what you can do, again, just go for ifconfig, look at the primary network interface and just run tcp dump followed by hyphen I, which is the interface, enxo or etho. Okay, it says sudo is required. Let me go for sudo and you will receive the complete network packet information of your primary network interface. Now looking at this, you can understand how requests flow through your interface. Let's say you don't understand this, you can use Wireshark, which is a very popular packet. When you provide information of your TCP dump or when you provide your network traffic, using Wireshark, you can understand much more about how requests flow through your interface, right? So TCP dump is basically used for network troubleshooting, maybe your application latency or instance latency. If you want to understand the output of TCP dump, you can just use the tools like Wireshark. Abhishek, is there any easy way? Like, I don't need the complete network latency or I don't need the complete packet. But when I try to connect to google.com or through this instance, when I try to connect to a particular website, during that time, I see the network latency or I see the response from the upstream server or target is late. How can I troubleshoot it? Now, this is where you can use the fifth command, either go for ping or go for traceroute. I think most of you are aware of ping. When you just do ping google.com, you will get the basic information. Okay. When you're trying to connect to the google.com, it says the time to get the response back is 1.66 milliseconds, which is definitely good. But it does not provide more information than that. If you want to get more information, first you need to install Traceroute. For example, I can just do traceroute google.com to first check if I have Traceroute installed on this machine. Okay, it says traceroute command is not found. So I can just go ahead and install Traceroute by just using sudo apt install Traceroute or this particular thing. I can go for it. What you will get when you use Traceroute, more detailed information, right? When your command or when your instance is trying to connect to google.com, usually there are a lot of upstream servers. You can see how request flows from your instance through the upstream server, from there to your internet service provider, from there to the upstream server, and from there probably to the google.com. You can check all the traffic using Traceroute. Okay, we have learned about all the network troubleshooting commands till now. But as a Linux administrator, you also work on other things. Like probably you want to look at the compute, which is another popular thing, right? Most of times you run into out of storage. Like probably there is no disk space left on your Linux machine. How do you troubleshoot that? So just use df-h. Abhishek, I already know this command. Df is a very basic thing. I can just use the df command to see how much disk space is left. And addition to df, what you can do, if I look at cd, so there are various folders here. If I want to check the utilization of a particular folder, what is the size of this particular folder, opt, let's say. So I can just use du-sh followed by opt. So this way, instead of looking at the storage utilization or compute utilization or the disk utilization of a particular mount, you can just check for a particular folder using du-sh, right? So this is the sixth command, du-sh. Okay, now how about memory utilization? We learned about CPU utilization. We learned about network traffic. We learned about the disk utilization. Can you also check memory utilization? Yes, it's a very simple command. All that you need to do is free-h. So using free-h, you can instantly check the memory utilization. So right now it says that, this is the total memory, which is approximately 1 GB on this machine, out of which 350 MB is utilized. And this is the free memory that is available on this machine, right? This is the free memory. So this is how you use df command for disk utilization, du-sh for utilization of a particular folder when you have multiple files within a folder and you want to check how much space is a particular folder taking, you can use du-sh. And when you want to look at the memory, you can go for free-h. Now let's look at the eighth command. It is not about CPU utilization, memory utilization, but a very useful command when you are dealing with services. Imagine you are dealing with a Nginx service and you want to check the logs of the running Nginx service or logs of any services that are managed by systemd. Systemd is a process, right? It's a daemon process and it is managing a lot of services on your Linux machine. If you want to check logs of services that are running on your machine, you can use Journalctl command. So using this command, you can get the complete logs of the services. You can also check for a particular service. Let's say the Nginx service itself. So just search for Journalctl-u Nginx. So using this command, you can see that, okay, during this particular timestamp, Nginx service was started by a particular user, and at this particular timestamp, Nginx service is already started. Similarly, for some reason, if your Nginx service is crashed, or for some reason your Nginx service was stopped, you can see why was your Nginx service stopped, or why was your Nginx service crashed. You can also see the complete logs from the last boot or from the last restart of your Linux machine using Journalctl-b command. As application developers, you might not use this command, but Linux administrators and DevOps engineers, this can become your favorite command when you are upgrading your Linux instances, or probably when you are dealing with multiple systemd processes on your Linux server. Not processes, my bad, services. So this is about Journalctl. So sometime back in the video, I explained that you can check list of used ports using Netstat. So we ran the command netstat -tuln, where we can see the following are the ports that are already in use. Let's now see how to check the process that is using this port. You can use this during the time of conflict. So here it says port 8085 is already in use. Let's see which process is using this port. For that, you can use this ninth command lsof, which is list of open files -i port 8085. So now you can see here Python 3 is the process, or this is the one that has initiated this process. So you can tell your developers that, hey, Python 3, there is some application that is triggered using Python 3, and it is using this port. Probably you can go for another one. Or when they say that no, we need this port, you can just go back to the this particular process ID, either kill it or just check who initiated this process ID. Probably ask them to use a different process. So this is especially useful during the time of conflict when someone tells you that the port is already in use. Using this command, you can check who has used this port or who is the one that is currently using this particular port. So the command is ls, which is list of open files. Now the final command is basically for your log analysis. Some of you might already know it, but it is very important to know it whenever you're dealing with huge amount of log files, right? Or when you are dealing with a log file with large amount of data, how do you read last few lines of the log file? As Linux administrators and DevOps engineers, you might deal with application logs or you might deal with service logs, which might spawn up to 20,000, 30,000 logs, right? Lines of logs. So you can use this simple command called tail. For example, we have the default log files, right? Let's say var log. So in this folder, you have bunch of log files. Let's try to look at auth.log. So when I just do cat /var log auth.log, and let me also try to provide sudo. So it has a lot of log lines. I just want to read last 10 lines of this log file. I can just do tail -n followed by 10, which means last 10 lines of this log file. So you can see here, I just got last 10 lines of the log file. But Abhishek, I want to read the first 10 lines of the log file. Again, it's very simple. Instead of tail, just go for head. So head -n 10 var log auth.log. So tail and heads are the commands that are basically useful when you are trying to perform log analysis. This is a very simple command, but some of you might not have used tail and head before. So just add it to your list. So these are the 10 popular Linux commands that you should definitely know. Because you watched this video till the end, let me also share 2 shortcuts that I use on day-to-day basis and that are super useful for me. So these are my personal favorite. These are not the Linux commands, but these are actually the shortcuts. The first shortcut that I'm interested to share, let's say if you look at the history command. So right now I have executed 175 commands during this session or from the time this instance is created. When you look at my local machine, and you can see that there are 1583 commands. If I do history 1, I can see all these 1584 commands. Imagine I ran a command 10 days back and I completely forgot that command. I just vaguely remember it that it was a Docker command, or I vaguely remember that the command is related to something like export. It starts with export, but I'm not really sure what is that command. It's very difficult to go through 1500 Linux commands, right? Which is in my history. Sometimes it can be 10,000 as well. Now, how do you get that information, right? How can you quickly get that command that you have executed 10 days back? So I often do this. I don't actually write commands. I just use this shortcut called Control R. So when I press Control R, in your case, it can be Command R as well. It's either Control R, it's Command R on your machine. So just type Control R. And if you remember the command is related to Docker, just search Docker. So you can quickly get that command. Let's say this is not the command. Just press Control R again, till the time you get the command that you are looking for. So what Control R does, it will perform a reverse search on your history. Instead of going through the history, typing the grep command on the history, then copy pasting on your terminal, just do Control R, followed by Docker or whatever you vaguely remember. It doesn't have to be the first line. It can be anywhere. And then just press the right arrow. That's it. Now you can just enter the command, right? So otherwise you have to go through history, or you have to use history pipe grep followed by the command. You don't have to do that, copy paste it. Instead, just use the reverse search. Now, as you keep using the reverse search, you will realize how useful it is. And if you watch my video tutorials, most likely I never actually write the entire command. If you watch my Docker tutorials, Kubernetes tutorials, you will see most of the times I use Control R, and I just do kubectl. I get this, I just press tab and I execute the command, right? So reverse search is the first shortcut that I want to share. Now, similarly, another shortcut, you know, this is just for fancy editor related things, editing of your terminal. If you see, when I logged into the EC2 instance, so this is the input that I always see. Whenever I run a command, you can also always see Ubuntu at the rate IP address. Have you ever wondered how does this come up? On my local machine at this point of time, so this tab is connected to EC2 instance, and this tab is connected to my local machine, which is Mac OS. Here you see Linux commands. Whenever I upload a tutorial, I keep changing this input. How do I do that? It's very simple. This might not improve your productivity, but this is just for a better interface, or just for a better UI. So what you can do is you can just use this command called export followed by the environment variable called ps1. Now, if I just change the ps1 environment variable to Abhishek.Veeramalla, so now you will see the input as Abhishek.Veeramalla, right? If I just change it to $pwd, right? So you will see the present working directory, right? So these are some useful Linux commands, and last two ones are basic shortcuts. One is to improve your productivity, and one is basically for a better user interface. I hope you found this video tutorial useful. Just to quickly recap, the commands that we learned were top, htop. These were the uh, commands that we learned for system performance. This is the first command. Then we learned about ps followed by pgrep and pstree, which are basically for looking at the processes and process related information. Then we learned about Netstat for network connections to look at open ports. Then we learned about TCP dump. We learned about TCP dump for analyzing the network traffic on the interface or a particular port. Especially useful during the application latency or network latency related issues. Then we learned about ping and traceroute. Maybe if your instance is not able to connect to the internet, this is the first place that you would start with. Then we learned about disutilization, df, du-sh. Then we learned about memory utilization, that is using pre hyphen h command. Then we learned about, we completely switched the gears and we learned about system logs. If you want to check the logs of the services that are running on your machine, or if you want to check, the complete systemd related logs, you can go for Journalctl, right? So using Journalctl, you can fetch the complete logs that are on your, right, that are related to your Linux machine, all the services. Then we learned about lsof for checking the process ID that is using a particular port. And finally, we learned about tail and head commands. I hope you found this video tutorial useful. See you all in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.